Out here in the forest, something as simple as this can support a ton of wildlife. It might just look like a pile of branches, but the benefits are numerous. Let's begin with one of the most obvious, and that is shelter protection. I find for my property, that is what is the most beneficial for the wildlife. Many people think they're messy and unsightly, but they do serve a purpose. This is just more than a pile of sticks. It's important to the animals, the wildlife, and the biodiversity of the forest. This goes down quite a ways deep in here. And made up of a lot of sticks. And I'm going to talk about the benefits of brush piles like this and how they can help. You'll recall from my wildlife videos that rabbits, grouse, and many birds get a chance at survival when they hide under these brush piles from the predators, not to mention the harsh weather we've been having, like those winds in the last videos. It's a perfect spot for them to get out. You'll remember the owl chasing the rabbit. You'll remember the hawk and the foxes, and there's still rabbits here because it gives them a chance to shelter away where it's hard to get in because there's many layers down through a big brush pile, depending on how it's built. When brush piles are decomposing, they're not only enriching the soil, it's helping with the fluorocarbons in the air, creating better air quality. So the next time you want to improve the wildlife and the vegetation drawn to your property, invest in a brush pile. Sometimes I leave them over the winter because I ran out of time to burn them when I built them and the fire bans were on. But I don't always burn all of them because the animals like to hide under them in the winter. Rabbits, weasels, birds, grouse, many things. And it saves them from the predators like owls and foxes. Gives them a chance. Well, squirrels tend to use them a lot, as you can see. And there are some buds down here that we're chewing on. Now in the spring, I'll check them over. Some of them I'll burn, but not all of them. I will leave some because the animals still need protection in the summer. You have to be really careful when you leave brush piles sit for a while, because if the brush piles are too big, you're going to attract bigger animals under them. And it has been known that little bear cubs in their first year will hide under them. Now, we've had incidents where people will go and slash burn, which is burning the brush piles from a block cut. And unfortunately, they're not always checked for animals. And it's too late. And a bear cub we had got scorched by one pretty bad. And it's going to survive, though, thanks to some wildlife people. It had burnt its pads and its nose and got out of the brush pile and just laid under a tree. And luckily they found it. So you really got to be careful if you leave your piles of brush over the winter. Make sure that everything is done hibernating and there's nothing underneath that you're going to cause harm to. We got a fairly windy day here today, out checking the cams. So it's not one of those days where you want to be out for long. This brush pile was well used by a rabbit and a squirrel. If you recall this brush pile in the videos with the game cam, you'll know that a rabbit hid here through the winter. You can see the water melting on top of the fog lake, day by day getting ready for the swans. Check that game cam, see if we got anything. This brush pile stayed empty of animals. An occasional squirrel went by, but I think it's because it didn't have a lot of poplar or willows on it, and therefore there wasn't as much food. The rabbits like it when you have piles with pieces of wood that they like to chew on, which is poplar and willows. So they didn't feel like this was a good idea because it didn't have any nighttime snacks. This tiny brush pile has been frequented many times by the weasel. It's because there's a hollow log under there and a hole down in the ground. So it likes it. It's got good cover, lots of big wood, and it feels safe in there. Grouse tracks from the brush pile. Squirrels and grouse and rabbits use the brush piles to raise their babies. And in June, I've witnessed the chicks fly out from under the piles. Not to mention the weasel, who's now taking refuge under one to have its kits. It's great protection from the predators. Not only that, with the different layers, they can store food because they never want to leave their babies for too long. This way, they have lots of material nearby when they need to feed the babies. And you can't forget about all the soil benefits from the decomposition. The ecosystem does well with this biodiversity. We're creating an environment for mushrooms, lichen, moss, and not to mention the beetles, the pollinators that come to these brush piles once they take hold. Many birds are able to forage from those insects, and it creates an ecosystem that mimics what the natural forest does. When trees have limbs fall to the ground, it just speeds up the process. When brush piles are decomposing, they're not only enriching the soil, it's helping with the fluorocarbons in the air, creating better air quality. So the next time you want to improve the wildlife and the vegetation drawn to your property, invest in a brush pile. Remember, there's not just a pile of sticks. It's a low effort way with a high reward and high impact on your forest. Now, if you think they're unsightly and still wonder how you can have brush piles, well, remember this. They can create a great property boundary, marking your line. If you stack them up along the way, they help show where your trails end and begin, and they don't look so unsightly because they're out of the middle of your plot. And if you want to make them look better, just add some green boughs to the top. Maybe not make them so big. Machine-made brush piles look a lot uglier, and you may want to avoid them, even though they're great for bigger animals. Let's go a little further back to where that windstorm took down that treetop and make a little brush pile. Just try it out, do some clippings, and put a game cam up. See if anything uses the brush pile. It'll be a fun little experiment, and I'll show you sometime later in the video what happened. Let's go. So here we are back at that broken limb. Let's walk in and cut some of those boughs off. Make a little brush pile right near the base and see what happens around this tree. You can see where the squirrel's really been shredding the buds. There's not many buds on this one. You're gonna need a little entrance in here for the animal to get in. We'll start putting some boughs around like a teepee. Leave those on the back end, leave these on the front end. Smells really good. Be really careful because there's a hole here. Now what I'm going to do is bring you in a little closer so you can actually see what's going on. What I'm going to do is continue cutting, building, and blocking so that there's cover in there. Because this brush is going to die anyway, so I'm not really killing the tree because it's already done. And I may find some sticks here that I can put on. because these are all dry limbs here. It's not going to be hard to do. Now I know this tree is caught in that tree really good, so I'm not worrying about it falling down on me. In a short amount of time, how you can build up a little shelter in there. Now, mind you, you got to cover over the front as well here. And of course, if a fox wants to get in there, he's going to get in there. Just a temporary shelter. If there's a rabbit running through the meadow, he's got a place to dodge. So we're going to continue cutting that brush and filling up that around there, and we'll put a camera on it and see if anything uses it. Grouse, squirrels, birds, rabbits, we're going to find out. So there we go. We got that made up like a nice little den. And we're going to put a camera here and see if anything ventures around it. I'm thinking right over here behind us. Maybe this tree right here will be a good spot. Tree will be a good spot in line with the entrance. Let's try out a few branches and put up that cam. That's a few more limbs off for the shelter. The reason why I'm taking the limbs is, well, not only for line of sight and trimming the trees anyway, but any moving limbs is going to disturb the game cam and trigger it unnecessarily. So let's put that up. And over there, bigger ones before I turn the camera on. Well, don't forget in the comments below to leave what you think is going to be the first animal to check this out. You got choices from watching my game cams. What's around? Like rabbits, squirrels, grouse, deer, you name it. And in a couple weeks, we'll check on it, see if anything come around. If you like this nature-inspired lifestyle content, be sure to give a thumbs up and subscribe. You're more than welcome here, and I'm happy to share these videos with you. Take care. Oops, I just think I got caught on camera. The first animal doesn't count.